One of the simplest changes to my diet over the last couple of years has just been lowering the amount of fat. I'm not advocating that everyone immediately lowers their fat. Just for the people that are maybe struggling or the people that haven't had any progress with their weight loss in a long time. Obviously, there's various types of diets out there. There's things that people are doing that are different. So some people may already be kind of on the lower fat side. And then if that's the case, then you probably don't really want to lower it any further. But I think that going down to about 30 to 50 grams of fat a day is very reasonable, especially when you have body fat to give up. And when you start to, when your body is going to utilize that body fat as energy, as it would dietary fat. Also, some of the vitamins, nutrients, minerals that are in your fat are going to be available to your body when you're burning that fat. Again, very similar to dietary fat. So a lot of people, think that your hormones are going to crash and all this stuff's going to happen. Well, if you perpetually are at very extreme low amounts of fat, maybe even under that 30 to 50 threshold, getting down into the maybe 3 to 5% of your total calories coming from fat, and you do that for maybe 2 years, and you're running and you're lifting, it's like, okay, well then maybe you will crush your hormones. But again, I'm not an advocate of a caloric deficit. I'm an advocate of eating, making sure you're eating. And when you choose a lower fat lifestyle, you're still just going by your normal hunger signals. So in a normal environment, when you're eating more fat, your satisfaction and satiation is going to last a little bit longer normally. Now, what I've found, though, to be true is that when you start to eat protein and natty carbohydrates, natty starches like rice and potatoes, if you have like chicken and a potato, your hunger gets crushed pretty good. A chicken breast and a potato, and if you're still hungry, have another chicken breast, and if you're still hungry, have another potato. Especially because we're trying not to add fat to, we're trying not to add more fat calories to the potato and so on. If you wanted to, you could probably put a little honey on a sweet potato, a little brown sugar on a sweet potato. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of that. I just wouldn't suggest adding fat to it, just because that can start to become a thing. You throw a little pat of butter here, a little pat of butter there, and next thing you know, you got 20, 30 grams of fat flying in because you threw some butter on your steak and some butter on your potato. Additionally, I want to say I'm not saying that fat is bad. In addition to that, I'm not saying that diets that I've recommended in the past don't work. The ketogenic diet worked for me. A low-carb lifestyle worked for me. The book that I wrote, The War on Carbs, has helped a lot of people lose 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 pounds. It helped myself lose over 100 pounds. So just because I'm talking about and promoting something different nowadays does not mean that I'm rejecting previous diets. And just because I'm suggesting for people to help with weight management and to lose body fat, for them to start to really lower and question the amount of dietary fat that they're consuming, does not mean that I think that dietary fat is bad. It's just that dietary fat makes it much easier to overeat. Dietary fat is one of the single greatest changes that I think people can make to their modern lifestyle, and the way that they're eating, and the way that they're having their family eat, and the way that they're eating with their spouse, significant other, friends, and so forth. There's always better food choices and better food options, and it goes right directly through the leaner sources of meat. The leaner that you can go with your meat, the easier everything else is going to be, because it's going to lower your overall amount of fat intake every single day. And if you go from consuming, you go from a carnivore diet or a keto diet, by the way, a carnivore diet was not great for me personally in terms of assisting me with losing any more weight or really getting much leaner. When I was on a carnivore diet, the tweak I had to make to get leaner was to drop the fat. It's the same tweak that I made now, except for now I'm not low fat and low carbohydrate. I'm low fat and the carbs are bumped up. Now, just because your fat calories are low also doesn't mean that you have to have tons and tons of carbohydrates. It does not mean that all of a sudden you require 800 grams. It does not mean you require 800 grams of carbohydrate a day. It doesn't mean that you need 1,000. It might not mean that you need 400 or 500. Although it is possible that you might need double body weight in carbohydrates every day. Or it could mean that, double your body weight in carbohydrates on days that you're training. And remember, if you don't lift, you don't count. If I look a little red and a little weird right now, it's because I'm a little red and a little weird. No, it's because I just took a B vitamin and I'm messing around with some niacin. So I'm tinkering around with messing around with some niacin, not the flush-free kind, the real hardcore kind that makes you red and itchy. So if I look red and itchy, that's why. If I look extremely handsome, it's because of my parents. Anyway, back to the matter at hand. The way that I'm eating right now is that sometimes if I explain exactly how I'm eating right now, then it throws everything off, but I'll just tell you flat out how I'm eating right now. I'm still utilizing aspects of the sugar diet. I'm still utilizing aspects of sugar fasting. Like this morning, for example, I had a smoothie and then I just ate some rice cakes. And the reason why I had some rice cakes was to mix in some different carbohydrates to give me some glucose from the rice. And so I could go and get a little mini lifting session in before our guest comes in for our podcast today. So I'm going to get my pump on. And so I figured a little bit of those sugars would be good rather than just having the fructose, which is going to, load up the liver glycogen. And it's going to load up some of the muscle glycogen too. Like there's more than just fructose in fruit. And also, like when your liver gets supplied with glycogen, I'm sure it disperses it out to wherever it needs to go once you start activity and stuff like that. So it's not like I needed the rice cakes. It's just something I've been messing with that I'm liking, and it feels right to me for right now. Pre and post mixed carbohydrates feels better to me than pre and post just one particular type of carbohydrate. Although candy and or even some forms of like straight up sugar pre-workout seem to be amazing, especially in terms of like digestion. And it's just like straight fuel, it seems like. And I don't want to really promote, hey, like go eat a bunch of candy. That's definitely not the message either. But it can be effective. It can work. Be a little cautious with candy because it can friggin' destroy your teeth. So be a little careful of that. So the way that I'm eating right now, I'll have anywhere between 30 to I'll have about 30 grams of fat maybe in a day, maybe a little bit less on days that I'm doing a sugar diet. Those fat calories are going to come from some meat, some sort of fish. I'm trying to really think actually if that's accurate, if I'm having 30 grams of fat. It's probably lower, although I have tried to add in a little bit of fat. I've been eating like a little bit of pink salmon and stuff like that, but pink salmon is still really lean, especially the canned pink salmon. I get Wild Planet, it's called, is the brand. And those are supposed to be wild caught when you get canned fish in the US. So those of you that have concern over farmed fish, because farmed fish has the omega-3 profile of like a cow, cow meat, a steak. So if you want to get better omega-3s, you want to try to make sure it's wild caught, and the way that you can ensure that supposedly is to make sure that it's canned, and I have some canned mackerel as well. So the mackerel has more fat, so I'll be toying with that. And I have been eating a little bit more fat than I'm thinking, because I also am having some cod livers here and there. Not cod liver oil, but cod livers. I actually mix it in with salmon, and that probably sounds to be the most vile thing ever to you guys, but it's actually really friggin' good, because the cod liver is so oily and so fat, it acts as like a mix for the salmon, almost like a mayo type thing. Anyway, I know it sounds disgusting, but as someone said on my YouTube channel the other day, imagine being the first guy to try to sell everybody on drinking cow's milk. And I just thought that was the funniest thing, because that's something that's just something I never thought of before. Imagine, being like, yo, because like people used to share each other's milk. They would have their baby, go with another mom type thing, like hundreds of years ago, just because it made it easier to keep everybody fed that way. And but imagine being the guy. So like I don't know, somebody might think that that's strange, is what was my point. But imagine being like, hey, try this milk from this animal. You'd be like, that sounds friggin' disgusting. What are you talking about? And you just like milked it directly, Anyway, it probably tastes awesome. So the cod liver's not as bad as it sounds, but I get it if you think it's friggin' disgusting. You got every right to think that. You got every right to think that I'm gross and weird. I'm down with it. I'm here for it. So yeah, that's about where the fat lands, maybe at around 30 grams for the day. And then the protein could be anywhere between 50 and 100 for the day. Probably closer to 100 on most days. And then the types of carbohydrates, it's fruits and stuff like that by day, fruits and simple sugars by day. And then it's usually more of the starches are usually more in the evening. Or the like post-workout. And that's pretty much the way that shakes out. And I do that for 4 to 5 or 6 days. And then I go off of it and I hammer more protein. Like I just did 3 days in a row of eating around 200 to 250 grams of protein. Hammered a steak shake every day, a steak shake or two every day. Ate a good amount of steak, good amount of eggs. And that's when I'll also bring the fat calories up a little bit. So the fat grams, the fat calories will come up. The fat soluble vitamins and stuff like that will come up a little bit too. I've been doing some experimentation with some vitamin D. I'll explain all this shit to you guys about the different supplements and different things and the help that I'm getting down the road. But I like to make sure shit works before I ever really fully spill the beans. So I'm not spilling the beans on nothing until I see results. And if I see results, then I'll share it. And if I don't see results, I'll tell you guys, hey, remember that experiment I said I was working on? It didn't work well for me, and there's really no reason to go over it. But anyway, that's pretty much what I'm doing. And then in terms of like how many carbs, how many protein and fat, like those are just like pure estimates. I don't really know because I don't track. I just eat. And on some days I'm hungrier than others. Some days I eat more than others. In terms of the carbohydrate, I would just say like I am trying to blast carbohydrates, but it's not anything super crazy. Starting, let's see, tomorrow I go to San Diego, and so I'll be down there for like 4 or 5 days. And while I'm there, the diet will be locked in. It shouldn't be hard to do. But I was just about to say, like, I probably need to eat more calories, and I just haven't had the greatest of opportunity to eat more calories recently. Not because of travel or anything like that, but I got kind of a stomach virus for a little bit there, and everything I was eating was just turning into pure liquid death. Talk about liquid death, just projectile out the back end. It was rough. My stomach was making the craziest noises, which I thought was pretty interesting, but it was, the noises were nuts. And so I had to wait till my stomach finally kind of calmed down. I ate a little bit weird during that time. I ate like cereal and stuff like that because I was trying to eat things that I felt would digest a little quicker and a little faster and stuff like that. And as weird as it is, the highly processed stuff tends to digest pretty quickly and pretty easily. I'm starting to get so old that my eyebrow hair is like in the way of my sight. That's really bad. I mean, I've always had kind of fuzzy eyebrows, but like this is getting to be out of control. That's the way I'm eating. That's what I'm doing. And if you take anything from this, I think that you can take away two things. One is you're not going to die if you lower your protein a little bit. And if you lower your protein a little bit, it makes it a lot easier to lower your fat. So again, I'm not saying like, you shouldn't have 1 gram per pound and stuff like that. Like I really like that rule, and it's been very helpful to me over the last couple decades. However, what I am saying is that you can probably go almost half of that and not really have a major concern for losing muscle mass. However, if you're training really hard, or you're an athlete, or any combination thereof, and you're trying to get hypertrophy, you definitely are going to want more than like half your body weight in grams of protein. Maybe as you level off and as you have earned the amount of muscle mass that you want and need, maybe you can then shift to that, and maybe you can notice that you're not going to lose much muscle mass from there. Something like that might not be a bad idea, but if you're trying to gain muscle, then you got to go. I don't think you have to go, but I think you got to get close to 1 gram per pound of body weight, or 1 gram per pound of lean muscle tissue. That's another way that some people gauge that, but not everybody knows their lean muscle tissue, so I don't always mention that version of that. And the second thing I hope you learned from this video today is that it would be really, really useful and really impactful and really helpful if you lowered your fats. If you're someone that does keto and you're a little bit more low protein and the fat calories are high, and you're having success with that, I would stay there, because I believe in that diet and I think it can be really effective. But for a lot of the rest of y'all, especially some of you just that struggle with diet, period, if you try some of the recommendations that I'm shoving out to you, basically just lowering the fat and bringing in the carbohydrates, lowering the fat and bringing in the sweets, bring in the blueberries, the strawberries, the raspberries, the cherries, the watermelon, the cantaloupe, the whatever shit it is that you like that's fruity, maybe a little bit of fruit juice here and there, maybe a little bit of candy here and there, you are going to completely destroy one of the most unhealthy things that many, many Americans are suffering from and no one's really talking about. And that is your binge eating. That is you trying to diet and then going off the rails. And I'm here to put an end to it forever with the sugar diet. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Catch you guys later. Push, push, push.